Welcome back to NT Coins World, the place where we explore the fascinating and often hidden world of coins. If you're a coin collector or investor, you're in the right place, because today we're going to dive deep into two Roosevelt dimes that hold value far beyond their original face value. We'll be covering the 1987 D Roosevelt dime and the 1998 D Roosevelt dime, both in fine condition. These coins, while not always on the radar for casual collectors, have specific characteristics that can make them valuable in the right circumstances. So, without further ado, let's begin with the 1987 D Roosevelt dime. Let's start with the 1987 D Roosevelt dime. The Roosevelt Dime series has been one of the longest-running coin series in US history, and the 1987 D holds its own in the world of numismatics. The dime was designed by John R. Sinnock, who modeled it after President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. Roosevelt dimes were first minted in 1946, shortly after the president's death in 1945, and they continue to circulate today. Now, specifically focusing on the 1987 D. Roosevelt dime, we need to understand a bit about its mintage and historical context. The 1987 D was minted at the Denver Mint, and its mintage numbers were relatively high compared to certain rarer years in the Roosevelt Dime series. This makes it a common coin in circulation, but there are still unique factors that contribute to its value. With over 1 billion dimes produced that year, it's not as scarce as some other years, but the 1987 D still holds specific appeal for collectors due to a few reasons. While this dime is not particularly rare, it's important to note the condition of the coin when assessing its value. Coins in fine condition like this one typically show signs of wear, but retain much of their original design features, with clear detail in the legend and the imagery. Coins in fine condition may not have the sharpness or crispness of higher grades like MS-65 or MS-70, but they are still appreciated for their age and history. As with most coins, the value of the 1987 D Roosevelt dime fluctuates based on its condition. A fine condition coin like this is typically valued around $1 to $2, which is much higher than its face value of 10 cents. But that's just the beginning. Here's where things get interesting. What really sets this dime apart are mint errors and the potential for finding a variety that makes it more valuable. For example, if you're lucky enough to find an off-center strike or a die crack, this could increase the value significantly. Coins with mint errors often attract higher prices due to their rarity, and some of these errors can push the value of the 1987 D Roosevelt dime into the range of $50 to $70 or even higher, depending on the specific nature of the error. A particularly rare proof-like finish or dimes that exhibit double die obverse or reverse die varieties are also worth noting. These varieties may occur in smaller quantities and may have been missed by general circulation, making them highly sought after by collectors. Additionally, as we consider the long-term value, coins from the 1980s, such as the 1987 D, tend to hold a certain nostalgic and historical value. Coins that commemorate the Reagan era are often looked at by collectors who have a soft spot for that time period in American history, which could drive future demand and increase value over time. In conclusion, the 1987 D Roosevelt dime in fine condition is a coin that's accessible to collectors on a budget, but still has potential for growth in value, particularly if you come across a mint error or variety. Now that we've taken a look at the 1987 D, let's move on to the next coin in today's spotlight, the 1998 D Roosevelt dime. The 1998 D Roosevelt dime, minted also at the Denver Mint, is another fascinating coin in the Roosevelt dime series. While the mintage numbers for this coin were slightly lower than the 1987 D, with approximately 1.4 billion coins produced, the 1998 D is still considered a relatively common coin in circulation. However, similar to the 1987 D, its value increases significantly when found in fine condition, or better, and it can hold a particular appeal for collectors interested in both the history of the series and the era in which it was minted. In 1998, the US was in a period of economic prosperity, and the coinage of this time reflects that stable yet dynamic period. The Roosevelt dime in particular was, and still is, a symbol of the nation's resilience and historical depth. The design, which has been in place since 1946, remains iconic, featuring the left-facing profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt, which is immediately recognizable. For a fine condition coin from 1998, you can expect a value in the range of $1 to $2, similar to the 1987 D. But again, we need to dig a bit deeper to understand how the coin can be worth more than just its face value. Let's talk about error coins for a moment. While errors in Roosevelt dimes from the late 90s are rare, they do exist. A 1998 D Roosevelt dime with a double die obverse or off-center strike can increase in value dramatically. In fact, collectors of Roosevelt dimes often pay premium prices for these rare varieties, sometimes as much as $50 to $100 for a coin with significant error characteristics. Additionally, some 1998 D coins have been known to have die cracks or clashing marks, which are imperfections that occur during the minting process. These minor details, while not necessarily rare, add a layer of intrigue for collectors who appreciate these unique characteristics. As far as historical significance goes, the 1998 D is often considered a key piece for those collecting Roosevelt dimes from the late 20th century. The economic and political climate of the 1990s had a significant influence on US coinage, and the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is part of that legacy. For some collectors, this aspect can give the coin a bit more allure, which could drive its value up over time. One important point for collectors is that, in comparison to earlier dimes in the Roosevelt series, the 1998 D is part of a more modern period of minting, where coin designs were typically mass-produced, leading to a higher number of coins in circulation. As a result, 1,998 D dimes in uncirculated or higher grades, such as MS65, MS66, or above, are much rarer and can reach values upwards of $10 to $15 depending on their condition. In summary, the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is another fascinating example of a coin that, while common in circulation, holds a lot of potential for collectors willing to dig a little deeper. Whether it's a mint error, a unique die variety, or the historical significance of the time period it represents, this coin has more value than you might initially expect. To wrap things up, both the 1987 D Roosevelt dime and the 1998 D Roosevelt dime are excellent examples of how condition, mint errors, and historical context can turn even the most common coins into valuable collector's items. In fine condition, you're looking at a modest base value, but the potential for rare errors and varieties means that both of these dimes could become highly valuable depending on what you find. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just starting out, these dimes remind us all that there's much more to coins than just their face value. Keep an eye out for those little imperfections or unique traits that can make your coin stand out in the market, and you could be holding a hidden treasure worth far more than you might have expected. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of NT Coins World. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future coin insights. And, as always, happy hunting and keep collecting.